JT Daniels, is he really the man? That's kind of a loaded question, and it's one I think a lot of people are speculating about on both sides. And I mean, what is the man after a while? People are really equating it to, can he win the national championship? Will he win the national championship at Georgia? Because you could make the case that a lot of really good quarterbacks through the years, Johnny Manziel, Sam Ellinger, Aaron Murray, were the man. They just didn't win the national championship. But in this context, one of the writers over at Dog Post, Larry Reeves, who spent a lot of time this past offseason watching and rewatching JT Daniels, is asking that question. And I'm including the story below. I'd encourage you to click on it and see what Larry has to say. It's a rather long story, and I'm having a hard time reading every single thing that is written in it here. But he talks about a lot of the positives for JT and some negativity too. I do want to talk about one part of it that I think is really important for more than one reason, which is when JT spoke on ESPN about some of the stuff that he was dealing with mentally, this and dealing with Georgia's sports psychologist in the off season. He said, "I learned a lot about myself. I had to handle adversity I'd never handled before. I'd never been tested with adversity. Was very down on myself mentally. It was a personal move. It was a place where I had to reach out. As soon as you do it, in terms of getting help, you're a different person." So I don't know what it's like to play quarterback, and well, I don't know what it's like to play quarterback in any level, but I certainly don't know what it's like to play quarterback in the SEC. I do know what it's like when stuff's not going your way athletically, and you're trying, and you had the ability, and you had the ability to do things, and you can't get it right at that moment, and there, you just try to fix it, and sometimes you try too hard to fix it. Well, in JT Daniels' case, he went to someone and talked to them about it. And this is becoming more and more of a thing that young athletes are doing today. And it's good. It's something that when someone my age was coming along, we didn't really have this ability. It was something you had to work through by yourself. And what Larry Reeves is saying here is, and by the way, Larry's background is being a quarterback in high school and then some college quarterbacking, but mainly military background. And he's talking about how he suffered with and dealt with PSTD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. PTSD, I'm probably saying it wrong, but I think everyone knows what PTSD is. And how getting help is a really big thing. I'm not comparing what folks in the military go through in combat with what anybody that's not in combat goes through. But stress, mental stress, is relative. And I think the point that Larry's making in this whole thing is that, hey, JT Daniels decided to go help himself and clear his mind about what the future holds for him. And when you talk with people around the program, um, JT had a tough transition to November. Okay, so he arrived. He left SC, got his health in good shape, arrived at Georgia in May, and then wasn't cleared to play. Period. He could practice, but wasn't clear to compete on the field when they're wearing silver breeches until the Auburn game. So that was October. It took another almost 2 months, not quite 2 months, until late November when he played and started against Mississippi State. Started and played in the first game. So this has been a real journey for JT. It is almost impossible to compare 2020 to 2021 on a lot of different levels. And in many ways, a lot of us don't know JT. We don't know his story. He wasn't recruited to come to Georgia. He had played at SC for a couple of years and then left. So there's a lot not known about JT, generally speaking, from the media and the fans. But, for JT Daniels to have this year where he could move forward and know his teammates differently, know his teammates on a more personal level. He was kind of thrown into last year, quickly going to Georgia where it was assumed it would be Jamie Newman, and then hanging out for, I don't know, six games, whatever it was, 10 weeks, where he was not playing. And Stetson was playing, or Dwan Mathis was playing, and JT was trying to get comfortable. Is he the man? That's something that Larry's tackling below. And I want you to take advantage of me putting this up and check that article out, because it asks questions that are good questions. Is he completely physically ready to go? Is he going to be fundamentally sound, or at least as close to fundamentally sound as possible? And JT Daniels had a good 2020, but it was not what it could have been. And in those 4 games is what I mean. You're talking about someone who has very good arm talent, but when he's doing things exactly correct, it's an NFL level arm talent. There's progressions that he's got to make, stuff like that. There has been room for JT Daniels to grow. And the answer to the question, is he the man? We won't know that, win or lose the first game of the season. We won't know that for another 13 games. And this story is not going to be totally told until for years from now. I mean, we won't really know the impact of JT until a few months. But the story of him and how he dealt with what was happening, with him, to him at Georgia, that's challenging. In the pandemic, there was no availability really for him. He certainly wasn't very active on social media. What is different now than was then? A lot. And how is he going to take advantage of that? One thing that Larry writes about with JT getting help with his mental stuff was, it demonstrates a true inner strength that I believe will resonate across the team. Admitting weakness doesn't lead to a loss of confidence in an individual. It's been proven through social science research to improve confidence and leadership, and to help aid a sense of belonging and team cohesion. Everybody that's on scholarship at Georgia is going through something. Whether you're talking about Eric Gilbert or Jack Podnesley, everybody's going through something. And the level of it might not be the same. The seriousness of it might not be the same. But when you're vulnerable and you are, some people call it real, some people call it vulnerable, that's a different, that's how people get to know you. That's how people get to know people in college and beyond. And Daniels has been willing to talk about that. I'm sure he's been talking about it with his teammates. We can't, in this time of year, all we ever hear about is how much better things are than they were, how much, work has been done and all this stuff. But this really is a different year than the year before on a lot of different levels and in a lot of different ways for the Dogs. Can they take that and go where they want to go? That's what Larry's talking about in this article. I really would suggest that you check it out. It's right below, and we'll see you on the website.